On 26 January 2020, it was a Sunday. It was a foggy morning in Los Angeles. Just in the night before, LeBron James just passed Kobe Bryant for career total points in a game of the LA Lakers at Philadelphia 76ers. And in the morning of that day, a Sikorsky's S-76 takes off from John Wayne Orange County Airport at 9:06 a.m. with 8 passengers. It was headed northwest. The destination was Camarillo Airport near the Bryant's Mamba Sports Academy, where a passenger, Gianna Bryant, would play a basketball game there, and another passenger, Kobe Bryant, would coach that game. At 9:20 a.m., the helicopter approached Burbank, but the Burbank weather conditions were instrument flight rules conditions. What that means is the pilot would need to rely solely on the instruments on board to fly the aircraft, but that was not allowed by the helicopter's owner company. The pilot then requested a special visual flight rules, and the control tower approved. That means the weather conditions were only slightly worse than the minimum condition allowed. The helicopter was then held for about 10 minutes to wait for traffic to clear before proceeding into the special flight rules conditions. At 9:39 a.m., 7 minutes after the helicopter proceeded into the special flight conditions, the pilot sent a communication to the Van Nuys airport controller saying he was at about 1,500 feet. 6 more minutes later, at 9:45 a.m., the pilot contacted the flight controller saying he was climbing above the cloud layer to 4,000 feet. And that would be the last communication transmitted from that helicopter. The helicopter crashed into a hill, and all 9 people on board were killed as a result. NBA legend Kobe Bryant passed away in that accident, and because there is no black box on board, no conclusion was ever made about that crash. In 2019, Kobe Bryant became a FIBA Basketball World Cup global ambassador to promote the international basketball. The 2019 FIBA was held in China, and the other ambassador was the Chinese superstar Yao Ming. Going to China, however, wasn't anything special for Kobe Bryant, and in fact, he would travel to China almost once a year. Kobe's popularity in China is more than anyone else in the NBA, more than Tracy McGrady, and even more than China's own Hall of Famer Yao Ming. In the year 2018, the Kobe Bryant narrated short film Dear Basketball won the Oscars in its Best Animated Short Film category, and Bryant continued to shine off the court and became the first ever professional athlete to win the Academy Award. He was also the first ever African American to win in this category. In the year 2017, in the Golden State Warriors at Lakers game, Kobe Bryant numbers 8 and 24 were retired by the franchise. It was the first that an NBA player has 2 of his numbers retired by the same franchise, finishing up with a 5-champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 1-time regular season MVP, 18 times All-Star selections, and 2 Olympics gold medals. Kobe's basketball career was definitely special, if not the greatest of all time. He told us success comes from insane hard work. On 13 April 2016, the LA Lakers were to play their last game of the regular season against the Utah Jazz in the Staples Center. Coming to the court with merely 16 wins under the Lakers' belt, it is the franchise's worst ever record whether they won the last game or not. But the game was, however, sold out. The most expensive tickets that night were $27,500 each. It was the most watched game that night. 3.5 million fans around the world tuned in for the game, overshadowing the record-breaking game by the Golden State Warriors versus Memphis Grizzlies that broke the NBA's most wins regular season record. In the audience were David Beckham, Kanye West, Jay-Z, and many other celebrities that were all waiting for the NBA legend to walk out of the tunnel and take the court for one last time. So Kobe took the court and played the entire first quarter, scoring 15 points using 13 field goal attempts. He played only half of the second quarter and added 7 points to his stat sheet. In the third quarter, he played the entire quarter again and scored another 15 points to bring his total to 37. It was 37, already more than double his season average at that point, and the most points recorded by an NBA player in his last game. But Kobe, being Kobe, he virtually played all of the fourth quarter and scored 23 more points, giving the LA Lakers a victory for one last time. This 60-point performance is his sixth 60-point game in his career. He walked off the court in the most Mamba way possible. Ahead of him was what he looked forward to a lot: business ventures, films, books, and finally spending time with his family. In the year of 2015, in a game against the New Orleans Pelicans, Kobe Bryant injured his right shoulder. It was later diagnosed as a rotator cuff tear, a season-ending injury for him. People suffering from this kind of injury will not be able to move their arm without feeling painful, and they will not be able to use any strength with the respective arm. So when Kobe was later checked back in to the fourth quarter, he dribbled, passed, and shot the basketball with his left hand only until the Lakers head coach at that time, Byron Scott, realized how serious the injury was and pulled him out of the game again. He did, however, make a fadeaway jumper with his left hand, showing us how easy scoring is for the Black Mamba. In the year of 2014, in a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kobe Bryant scored 26 points. The 9th point he scored was a free throw, and it was special because it pushed him up one spot in the all-time scoring list in the NBA, surpassing NBA legend Michael Jordan to become the history's third all-time at that time. Although the Lakers were having their historically worst season at that time, it was a special moment for Kobe because Michael Jordan had always been an idol for him. He looked up to Jordan and growing up modeling his own game with Jordan's. In the year 2013, in the 80th game in the season, Lakers vs Warriors, Kobe Bryant was playing at least 40 minutes a game in 7 consecutive games already. He was trying to push the LA Lakers into the playoffs. Kobe had his Achilles torn in a play and was out for the remainder of the season. Despite pain that comes with a season-ending injury, Kobe actually held on to finish off his 2 free throws with a ruptured Achilles before he actually left the game. The Lakers would go on to win their next 2 games, also the last game in the season against the Houston Rockets in overtime, to secure a playoff spot in the last day of the regular season. Even though Kobe Bryant almost single-handedly carried the team into the playoffs that year, because of the injury, however, he was to miss the playoffs, and the Lakers were swept by the Spurs in the first round. Although Kobe was still very confident, little did he know it was the last game that he was ever on a playoff team.
Kobe, 3, yes! Big one, Bryant from outside, 107-104, 3-point game, 5 minutes left.
In the year of 2012, after a second round exit against the young Big 3 OKC, It was 2 years in a row that the LA Lakers would exit the playoffs in the second round. The Lakers decided to pair Kobe Bryant up with another superstar center, Dwight Howard, to help Kobe chase after his 6th championship. Kobe was again part of a super team with fellow stars such as Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, Pau Gasol, and Metta World Peace. However, that team was going down as one of the most disappointing super teams in league history, and it was the second time Kobe Bryant is part of a disappointing super team. Kobe's disastrous relationship with Dwight Howard would also go down to become the lowlights of their respective careers.
I love it. Little bad blood's always good, huh?
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, comments coming out from Dwight Howard saying...
In the year of 2011, Kobe Bryant directed an offensive anti-gay word towards a referee in a game after he received a technical foul from him, and it was captured in live television. The NBA then fined Kobe for $100,000, and Kobe quickly apologized afterwards, saying that it was purely out of frustration and he was simply too involved in the moment. In the year 2010, in a 7-game series against the Big Three Boston Celtics, LA Lakers won and Kobe Bryant was the Finals MVP. That was Kobe's 5th ring in his career. Kobe said it was the most satisfying and sweetest championship he had, because it was a result of revenging the 2008 loss to the Boston Celtics, and he finally has something to say to Shaq. Take a listen.
We know what it means as a team, but what about individually for you?
Just got one more than Shaq. So you can take that to the bank.
In the year 2009, after losing to the Boston Celtics in 2008, Kobe and his Lakers finally reached the top. Kobe finally won a ring without Shaq and was the Finals MVP for the first time ever. With his championship in 2009, Kobe proved that he could lead a team to a championship on his own. In the year 2008, Kobe received his first ever and only regular season MVP award and led the Lakers to the NBA Finals for the first time since Shaquille O'Neal's departure. But Kobe could not finish off the season with the championship trophy, losing to the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen-led Boston Celtics. Kobe was frustrated and he actually cut out a piece of newspaper with Paul Pierce celebrating in his pocket. So to remind himself what happened that year, he was eyeing for a revenge. In the year 2007, Kobe Bryant requested a trade after a mediocre season that ended up with the Lakers losing in the first round. It was also a sensitive period for Kobe as Shaquille O'Neal just won a ring in Miami with Dwayne Wade a year earlier. The Lakers front office did put together some offers, including a trade to the Pistons, a trade to the Bulls, and even a trade to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a potential 1-to-1 swap with LeBron James. Kobe Bryant, however, exercised his no-trade clause to veto all of these trades because he did not believe in other teams being able to give him a better chance at a championship run than the Lakers. Kobe ended up staying with the Lakers, and in the following season, the Memphis Grizzlies handed them Pau Gasol later in the season. The rest was history. On 22nd January 2006, the Toronto Raptors were visiting the Staples Center against the LA Lakers. The 05-06 Lakers were a mediocre team at best, and the Raptors were able to build up an 18-point lead in the third quarter. But Kobe Bryant scored 51 points after trailing by 18 to rescue the Lakers and defeated the Raptors. It was also Kobe's career-high 81 points, the second highest scoring game in NBA history, only behind the Will Chamberlain 100 points.
And an 81-point game, 55 in the...
In the year 2005, for the first time, Kobe Bryant played a season without one of the most dominant big men in NBA history as his teammates Shaquille O'Neal, nor a Hall of Famer, coach in Phil Jackson in the sidelines. Kobe missed the playoffs for the first time in his career, and his image as a star player hit rock bottom because everybody saw him as the one who drove everyone away but could not win on his own. Adding to the matter, the former Lakers head coach Phil Jackson at that time published a book saying that he could feel the hatred from Kobe and said that Kobe was uncoachable. In the year 2004, Kobe Bryant and the super team Lakers with Kobe, Shaq, Karl Malone and Gary Payton lost the NBA Finals to the Detroit Pistons in only 5 games. After this failed super team experiment, the LA Lakers traded away Shaquille O'Neal and Gary Payton. Karl Malone later retired, and Kobe finally became the face of the franchise that he would forever be associated with. Ahead of him was, however, even more turbulence and uncertainty than what had happened to him over his first half of his basketball career. In the year 2003 off-season, Kobe Bryant was arrested by the Eagle County Sheriff in Colorado, accusing him of sexually assaulting another woman. Kobe initially denied the accusation, saying he never had sex with the accuser, but then admitted to having sex with her, but with mutual consent. A criminal case was then filed against Kobe Bryant as a result, but was later dropped. A civil case was also filed against Kobe Bryant, and it was later settled privately between Kobe and the accuser. Kobe Bryant's wife, Vanessa Bryant, publicly supported him by accompanying him to a press conference where he publicly apologized to the accuser in the lawsuit. Vanessa Bryant also said that they would work out the matter within their own marriage and Kobe was not a criminal. It was the most controversial and darkest moment in Kobe's career or even his life. In the year 2002, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal won the NBA championship that year, and the LA Lakers finished their three-peat. What that means is winning 3 titles in a row. They joined only 4 other teams in the league history to have done so. With the 3rd title at the age of only 23, Kobe became the youngest player ever to have 3 rings under his belt. In the year 2001, Kobe Bryant married Vanessa Bryant, but Kobe's family did not attend their wedding because Kobe's father, Joe Bryant, a former NBA player, disapproved the marriage because he thought Kobe was too young at that time and Vanessa was a Latino, not an African American, and for that reason, Kobe's relationship with his father had always been terrible. In the year 2000, in the NBA Finals, LA Lakers vs Indiana Pacers, Kobe Bryant was injured in Game 2 by Jalen Rose from the Indiana Pacers and went on to miss Game 3 for the series. The play involved Jalen Rose intentionally placing his foot under Kobe's when he was shooting, which led to the injury. Jalen Rose actually admitted that the dirty play was intentional and it was an effort to stop Kobe Bryant. But in Game 4, Kobe returned and proved that he was not stoppable by Jalen Rose and made the game-winning shot with only 5.9 seconds left in the shot clock. The Lakers were able to win that game and then the entire series. Kobe later received his first ever championship when he was only 21 years old. In 1999, the LA Lakers hired Phil Jackson as the head coach. Phil would go on to coach Kobe for most of his basketball career and became one of the most respected mentors for Kobe. When Kobe was asked who he would like to finally induct him to the Basketball Hall of Fame when the time comes, Kobe gave 2 names. One was Michael Jordan, his longtime idol, and the other one was Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson also brought with him the triangle offense he used to run with Michael Jordan in the Chicago Bulls. and only this time, Kobe was a focal point in the triangle, like what Jordan used to do. This offensive strategy would give the Lakers much of its glory in the new century. In 1998, it was the year when Kobe Bryant got recognized by his first ever NBA All-Star selection. He was also the youngest ever NBA All-Star Game starter at only 19 years old. He did all that coming off the bench of the LA Lakers. His All-Star journey began there in 1998, and he would go on to be an NBA All-Star for the rest of his basketball career. That was 18 consecutive NBA All-Star selections from 1998 to 2016. Kobe won a total of 4 NBA All-Star Game MVPs, including one co-MVP with Shaquille O'Neal. This ties for the most All-Star MVP ever awarded to a single player. Now, the NBA All-Star Game MVP trophy is named after him in his memory. The NBA All-Star Game Kobe Bryant Most Valuable Player Award and the first All-Star Kobe Bryant MVP Award was won by Kawhi Leonard in the 2020 Chicago All-Star Games. In 1997, the All-Star Games were held in Cleveland. Kobe Bryant participated in the slam dunk contest and became the slam dunk champion. This was the first time a Los Angeles Laker win this award, and up to today, Kobe is still the only slam dunk champion from the LA Lakers. So even when he wasn't elected to be an NBA All-Star player, he still participated in the All-Star event. What that means is that Kobe had always been in the All-Star game since he joined the league through to where he finished his career. And now that his name will forever be in the All-Star game, his association with the NBA All-Star games indeed lay out.
A year ago in high school, making the big move. What do you tell your friends back home now they came to see you? They're here this weekend rooting you on.
Well, thanks for being in the gym with me and helping me on my dunks and all that stuff and all that good stuff. Thanks for your support right now, and can't wait to see you when I get back home.
In the 1996 NBA Draft, with the 13th pick, the Charlotte Hornets selected Kobe Bryant. Kobe was then traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. He was only 17 years old, coming right off high school. Because he was under 18, his parents needed to co-sign his first contract in the NBA. And from there, the rest was history, and an incredible NBA journey began. Being a basketball fan, an NBA fan that was born in the same year Kobe was drafted into the league, I grew up watching Kobe, LeBron, Duncan and Nowitzki. Among these, my favorite player is always Dirk Nowitzki. But if you ask me who the GOAT is, my brain says it was Michael Jordan, because he just accomplished so much over his legendary career. My eyes say it's LeBron James, because throughout all these years that I watched the NBA games, I witnessed having LeBron in your team means NBA Finals, and he is not yet done. But my heart says it's Kobe Bryant. I used to hate Kobe, to be honest, because he was very controversial and so relentless. Too relentless, in fact. He was always so extreme in everything that he did, and also in everything that happened to him. But reliving all these Kobe moments made me realize, throughout the ups and downs, Kobe was already a part in me and in all the basketball fans around the world. He inspired us with his extreme work ethics and extreme approach to the game, or even extreme attitude to his life. Now that he is gone, I feel like a part of me is gone, or rather this Kobe Bryant part of me will no longer receive any new updates. Nonetheless, thank you Kobe for carrying us along such an amazing journey. Yes, you are very extreme, but you're also the greatest of all time from my heart, because you taught me greatness is just extremities done right. Thank you, Kobe. Rest in peace.